getting this show on the road. It's 9 o'clock.
Yes. Oh, that's all she.
All right, welcome everybody to the June 19th board meeting. Appreciate the delay a week. Calling this meeting to order. We need to excuse Mr. Corder.
Make a motion to excuse Mr. Porter.
Motion and a second. All the. Oh, and Mr. Norris? Okay, okay. And Mr. Norris?
Yep.
Same motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. You've got your agenda in front of you. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Moving on to the minutes. Dr. Cannon?
Madam Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to approve the minutes. I had something on the consent agenda that I want to pull.
Okay,
I can
not
do it
yet.
myself. Yes, you're right.
Get ahead of
I
yourself.
apologize, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Cannon, the minute?
The minutes of our prior meeting are included in your packet, and if no discussion, I will take a motion to adopt and approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, no public comments for today, so moving on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
pull items 5 and 9?
Okay, pulling items 5 and 9 for separate discussion.
I have,
And outside of that, I move to.
I've got a question about 7.
7.
7.
I move to pass all the rest of them, so that would be the items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 10.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. We need a second. All those in favor say aye. All right, any opposed? Okay, on to item number 5, which is a resolution accepting loan funding offer for the Walnut Street Pump Station replacement.
Just a
Go ahead,
clarification.
Commissioner Zappa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to know if the loan amount matches the construction estimates, and if so, when were those estimates done? Just trying to make sure that we don't have estimates from a year ago and then get kind of slammed by inflation.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to ask Matt Hypes to join us and share his thoughts on the topic.
Good morning. I do apologize, I actually don't have the cost estimate information that was put together for this project. I can certainly get that for you. I know the bid price came in at just under $6.9 million.
And that matches the loan amount?
I believe the loan amount is 5.14, or, yeah, it's $149,000, or, sorry, $5,149,900. It's the loan amount.
So how do we square the two?
Well, I would assume that we have adequate funding in the budget to cover that difference.
There you go.
Yeah, we have that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to approve item number 5?
So moved.
Motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, item number 7 is a $875,000 contract with RDL Private Utility Locating LLC for underground utility locating services. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I'm amazed the low bid is 1/4 of the next lowest bid and 1/6 of the third lowest bid. And having been in that business some time ago, I couldn't have done it for those unit costs 5 years ago. And I'm just concerned that it's a responsible bid.
Well, I understand. Let's ask Matt Trivett, who is in charge of the bid, to give us his thoughts on the item.
All right, thank you. We shared the same concerns, saw the difference, and didn't have experience with any locating contracts. This is the first for the authority. We did get in touch with the RDO, with the contractor after receiving the bid, did some follow-up interviewing with them to understand their resources, their experience. They do currently have a contract working directly, receiving 811 tickets for Charlotte Department of Transportation. They have the equipment that we wanted to see, which was both the cable locators plus GPR. They will be staffing up to meet the demands of our contract. We feel good that, especially with our help, we have an experienced group. We have a good project manager on it, get them up to speed quickly. And also, we think that some of that big difference in the price between their bid and the next lowest bidders, the one was a survey and engineering company who mainly does SUE work for projects, not necessarily for incoming 811 tickets. So they're doing design surveys, working with other engineers. The second lowest bidder assumed worst case scenario for every ticket, that no two tickets are going to be equal. Our bid price was based on units in the ticket count. Some tickets are going to be very small, maybe just for a cable service going to a new home. Some could be up to a quarter-mile long. Those aren't frequent, but the second lowest bidder specifically said that their pricing assumed worst case for all of the tickets.
Yeah, I'm just, I guess I've never seen it done where you're paying for it on a per ticket basis. It's usually per linear foot. But I would say if you could get that kind of price for doing that, we ought to get out of the business of doing it ourselves and let somebody else do it.
Well, one of the activities that we are undertaking is something along the lines of managed competition. We are comparing the cost per ticket and other variables, such as accuracy, hits, liability, between this contract and our own resources. And we will have a report on that. But we share your concerns. The other side, the flip side of this is we built this request for proposals off of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County contract, which is a utility that completely contracts out all line locating services. So we're stepping into this market for the first time. We don't see a reason to reject the bid as non-responsive. And we recognize that we may turn right around in a couple of months and determine that it may not have worked out the way we want it to. Then we'll have to hit Plan B.
Okay.
Any other questions on items number 7? We had the same questions in finance.
Move to accept.
Motion to accept in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 9 is a resolution appointing the deputy finance officer. Commissioner
Thank you,
Zapp.
Madam Chair, I just want to take just a brief moment to recognize Julia Faircloth and this major milestone in her young career. We often deal with a lot of things in this board level, millions of dollars flowing through here. These can be put on the consent agenda and kind of run right through. But I don't like to ever forget, she's a big deal. And just wanted to take a moment and recognize you and wish you the best of luck. She has to walk in the shadow of our local rock star, John.
I'd like to echo that and extend my thanks for that recognition. Julie is a very valuable part of the team, and we're very lucky to have her.
We need a motion.
Yep, so I need a motion to accept the resolution. Motion in a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, so that's everything on the consent agenda. Moving on to new business, administrative reports, and attorney's report.
So first, I would like to welcome 2 guests. We have with us Mr. George House and Alex Elkin, our outside counsel from Brooks Pierce, dealing with the Comores matter. Ken and I will be joining them tomorrow for the mediation in the Comores case. We have 2 closed session items for today, one dealing with contract negotiations and the second dealing with CFPUA versus Comores.
All right. Thanks and welcome. Looking forward to it. Executive Director's report?
And we have a lot on this report. So let's begin with the first 5 items. We present to you the key indicators report, the safety report, the environmental report, the strategic plan update, and our quarterly CIP status report. Are there any questions for those 5 reports?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
a couple items on the key indicators report. I just wanted to pull the highlight. Okay,
Mhm.
thanks. On page 98, under development services, we saw I hope this is a one-off, but a significant drop by my rough calculation, about 57% drop in permits reviewed, and a 70% drop in requests for information. I hope this is not an indicator of anything, it's not a trend, but if you look at it in context of the last 12 months, it's pretty dramatic, what's happening. Do we have any thoughts on that from the engineering department or from development services?
I'll give you my thoughts on it, and
Sure.
I would reference you to page 107, which is the new meter installation.
Yes.
And you see the very same trend. Taken together, this suggests, along with our trends in terms of the finance report, which will come later, that we're seeing, or have seen a periodic downturn in new inspections, new meters, and the associated revenue with system development fees. We are doing all the right things as an organization to foster continued orderly, responsible growth. And we're seeing on the horizon plans coming in to take advantage of the investments you're making in northeast New Hanover County. But it is something of a reality that those revenues have dropped this year over what we thought they would be. And those 2 indicators are reflective of that.
I don't know what you said, just to kind of raise that flag, especially as we move forward in our new financial years, you just said here. I hope somehow this can reverse itself, or we can see a general uptick. Yeah, I have nothing more to be said. We said it, we're prepared, we recognize it, and we'll do what we can. The second item I had was actually on the page before, on 106. It had to do with vacancies and turnover rate. And I wanted to put a positive bright light on this. Both of those are some of the best we've seen in the last 12 months. The vacancy rate at 4.77 is actually below our target rate, our benchmark. And the turnover rate is the lowest it's been in the last 12 months, which to me indicates that we're doing something right with our employees and that the organization is very healthy. So good job.
Thank you. I would say that this is something of a reflection of the market and of this board's decision last year and this year to invest in its workforce, both in pay and compensation and in some of the intangibles that workforces today are asking for, training and development. You have a workforce development manager who's been out there working really hard, and I think that's paying dividends. And then finally, I'd like to compliment our HR department. They have implemented a new human capital management system, NeoGov. A big part of that is the recruitment component. So taken together with their own efforts, I think you're seeing the payoff of some concerted effort to bring these numbers down.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other questions on any of those reports? All right, moving on to item number, I'm sorry, this is yours.
That's right. That's okay. That's okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to move on to our first action item, which is our largest action item, and invite Jeff Atkins to the podium to provide the presentation for the utility consolidation agreement with the town of Wrightsville Beach. And as he comes to the podium, I'd like to recognize Brian Murray, Chief Financial Officer for the town, as a guest in the audience and a good partner who's been working with us diligently over the last 20 months. Welcome.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate the chance to be back with you today. We briefed you in February of 2023 as the utility consolidation feasibility study was getting started. So glad to bring you some information now about the conclusion of that study, the recommendations, and the actions that have been taken since to bring you the proposed utility consolidation agreement this morning. I'd like to begin with just a brief recap of where we've been, where we're headed, and some core principles that relate to utility consolidation. This began with a state-funded feasibility study, kicked the project off in October 2022. That study evaluated the feasibility of the financial pieces, the capital project required, and the organizational aspects of bringing the Wrightsville Beach utility system into the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority service area. We have been conducting negotiations on a utility consolidation agreement that were completed in May, and pending action by this board and the town board on Friday would begin a transition period leading to a transfer of that utility in the fall of 2025. Some of the principles that are important for utility consolidations have been learned through experience in North Carolina through utility consolidations that have been done previously in Charlotte, Raleigh area, Cary, and Winston-Salem. And these include the town customers would become CFPUA customers with the same service expectations. There would be a transition period prior to the transfer date. Not just handing over the keys once the agreement is executed, but having some time that allow for the details to be worked out and a smooth transfer prepared. There will be costs and revenues to be considered. Costs for new infrastructure, for services and equipment, system development charges, as well as revenues from the town's water and sewer service and budget appropriations that have been provided by the state. We'll talk more about that in a minute. When the feasibility study was begun, we focused on what our objectives were and some success factors. We're looking for a win-win outcome for both the town and CFPUA, and an agreement that's fair, reasonable, and provides the town a long-term, dependable water source. The study looked at the consolidation from multiple perspectives. I want to focus on a few of those this morning. The study addresses the capital infrastructure required. It addresses organizational operational considerations and the financial aspects. And then finally, it began the process of agreement negotiations that continued past the feasibility study onto completion in May. The utility capital improvements are targeted to integrate the two systems and bring them to the ability to deliver a similar level of service across the entire combined service area. We didn't start from zero. There had been prior studies that town had done that were used as the basis for evaluating the capital project needs that are listed on the right-hand side. These would be implemented over 5 to 10 years and would have a preliminary budget around $24 million. The financial basis was a pro forma model. The authority's rate consultant, Reftalis, was part of the assessment team as well and developed a pro forma model tool that helped us forecast the feasibility study for the purposes of the initial project that's been completed in January. And then that same tool is valuable as an accounting tool to track progress towards cost recovery over the coming years. The tool incorporates year-by-year expectations of expenditures and revenues and can help us to understand the time it takes to recover the costs fully. Some of the financial factors that we needed to consider in this situation were, number one, growth. The town is nearly built out, so growth's not a factor in future costs for providing service or revenues that are going to come from a larger system. It's going to be basically the size that it is today. The second are rates. The town and CFPUA have different rate structures. They bill at different intervals, but interestingly, they generate the same amount of revenue overall. That's true at the high level. It's not necessarily true in every detail. There are individual differences in the rate components. So some customers in the town will see increasing water and sewer bills. Others will see a decrease. It just brings in the value of proactive communication to the town service area in the time leading up to the transfer. I want to talk a little bit about the direct appropriations. As you're aware, the General Assembly directed a total of $25 million towards the town and the authority to assist with the feasibility of implementing the utility consolidation. This was a game changer in establishing that this utility consolidation was financially feasible and wouldn't place a burden on the authority or the town. That's the funding that was provided was intended to address that. This funding is not a check that's written to the authority or the town. It is reimbursement for actual costs. So there will be a process to be worked through to receive those funds from the state. The town was very responsible in its setting aside funds in a reserve fund and capital fund. Those will be transferred to the authority with the utility consolidation. That is going to provide an opportunity, seed money, to begin the capital projects proactively to complete that work to achieve some of the goals of additional resiliency for the town in interconnecting the system with CFPUA. The financial approach that we'll take accounts separately for the capital projects that will be done in the town's service area. There will be a common sharing of O&M costs and a common sharing of system-wide projects, but a separate accounting of the projects in the town service area so that those costs can be recovered through rates, fees, and all of the other financial elements. Speaking about the agreement, a draft agreement was initially prepared during the feasibility study and continued to be worked on over the course of the last 18, 20 months. As those negotiations continue to reach a point where we identified the big rocks that we needed to work through, and beginning in August of 2023, CFPUA and the town began exchanging letters of offer for the utility consolidation that addressed those major terms. We reached the conclusion of those negotiations in May and did work through those issues to the mutual satisfaction of the authority, staff, and town who participated in those negotiations. So some of the key terms I want to bring out and highlight for you this morning. The first is the target transfer date. I mentioned that we needed time after the agreement had been approved to be prepared for a smooth transition. The target for the transfer date is September of 2025. That will be finalized next summer as we reach a point where we can understand that sufficient progress has been made. The second area is the utility consolidation capital plan. The agreement includes an exhibit which names those projects and the preliminary cost. The town will pay water system development charges for the existing town customers. That revenue will help offset the expenditures of the facilities that you already have in place, in addition to the capital projects that will need to be done to integrate the systems. They won't be paying the wastewater system capacity charges because they've already paid those. They've been a long-term partner with the City of Wilmington and CFPUA in the wastewater system, and through that, the agreements have included capacity charges that have been part of past payments over the years. The town's direct appropriations and utility fund balances have a process that is laid out in the agreement, and the town and the authority will work together with the Division of Water Infrastructure to work through the process to access the monies and reimbursement. The utility fund balance is going to be finalized at the town's financial closeout of the utility operations, with transfer timing done incrementally according to the terms of the agreement. The town customers, again, as I said before, will adopt the CFPUA rate structure on the transfer date. And when I talked before, the concept behind the cost recovery is one water and wastewater system with 2 service areas during the cost recovery period. Once cost recovery is complete, that distinction would not need to remain in place. Ownership transfer is another important part of the agreement. CFPUA needs access to the properties that are used for water and wastewater operations, and facilities, property, land interests, financial assets, information, and data are discussed in the agreement to transfer to the authority. There are exhibits in the agreement which specify the assets that are kept by the town, as well as those that transfer. And then deeds and other instruments, easements, will be worked out over the course of the transition period prior to the transfer date. If a property is no longer needed for water and wastewater operations in the future, the agreement addresses the possibility of reverting properties to the town, so that that wouldn't necessarily result in properties, for example, maybe a well site that's discontinued use, remaining in the CFPUA inventory. Finally, the utility staff in this organization and the town organization are extremely important, and in this case, the institutional knowledge that those town staff is valuable to the future utility consolidation's success. So those employees would be eligible to transfer to the authority at the transfer date without loss of pay, leave, or years in the retirement system. A few things about the timeline. I'm not going to go through all these details, but basically, after the action that's taken by the authority and the town this week, if it's approved by both boards, then we've got additional reviews and sign-offs by the city engineer and the county engineer that the consolidation wouldn't impair service to the existing customers, and that determination has been looked at by a consultant on the study team, and then the local government commission would also, their approval would also need to be sought. Initial conversations have been had on all of those. In the fall, work will begin to implement the capital plan, and working towards next summer, making final determinations on the date of the transition, which is currently set for September 30th. I've mentioned transition period a few times. Again, this is a long list of things, mostly there to just emphasize for you that this is a thoughtful process, a lot of details that we need to make sure we're taking care of for a smooth transition. Communication is a key piece of this. Collaboration between the towns and the authorities' HR departments on transferring employees. The activities needed to modify the town's water meters, SCADA control systems, and bring billing data into the CFPUA system. The capital program will be beginning during the transition period, and we'll be finalizing property transfers, utility-related contracts for services that may be appropriate to retain, and transferring the town's utility records and data, and working with the state and federal folks to transfer the operating permits for the water and wastewater systems to CFPUA. After the transfer date, CFPUA would be responsible for the operation and maintenance of the town's water and wastewater utility. They would expect to continue using the town's wells for a period of time as they complete the projects which are necessary to supplement the existing interconnect capacity for water supplied from the CFPUA system into the town, redundant water and sewer lines crossing the intercoastal waterway, and some additional water system improvements and addressing some aging infrastructure. The wells might stay in place as a long-term tool for water supply resiliency, but we want to reduce the daily reliance on that. And then finally, For several years after the transfer date, the capital projects will continue to a point of completion in the next 5 to 10 years as the town decides to, or as the authority works through implementing those capital projects. So that's a report then on the report and the agreement. I understand that there's a recommendation.
Yes. So on behalf of your staff and your board liaisons, one of which who couldn't be here today, Larry Sneeden, but who shares his recommendation, we suggest approval of this consolidation agreement as presented today between the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority and the town of Wrightsville Beach. We also suggest that approval should be conditioned upon review and approval of the Wilmington City Engineer, the New Hanover County Engineer, and the Local Government Commission as described by interlocal agreement and general statute respectively. Are there any questions?
I'd just like to thank Deans and Larry Sneeden for quite a yeoman's job they've done on this. I mean, it's like watching grass grow sometimes, I'm sure, but boy, y'all did a great job, and this is the great result of all that hard work, not just from you two, but the city, town of Wrightsville Beach, our staff, who some I don't even know who did what, but I know it took a lot of work and a lot of keeping your nose to the grindstone, so thank you very much.
All these guys.
I'm sure.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Question, thank you. There was a comment earlier on in one of your slides here, that if you could fill out, the quote was, some town customers will see increasing water and sewer bills and others will see decrease. Other than usage, what's driving that?
I can take a stab at that. When you drill into the details of the base charges that are in place for like the monthly charges that are in place for CFPUA customers and town customers, there is a bigger increase in the base charge for meters, which are not the smallest size, the 5/8, 3/4 inch, but the 1.5 inch that some residential customers would have. It does not affect the majority of customers, but there are some residential customers with larger meters that would pay a higher fee on a monthly basis. The irrigation is another area where you might expect to see some differences in the rates.
I see. Once you start, I get that, and I kind of hope that was it. What caught me was the term increasing. So will this be a constantly increasing, or once we establish that?
Right. Like if you took a snapshot of the before and after, I think that increasing, that's the way the word was meant in that case.
Thank you. Also, the Allen's Lane well, is that currently productive?
That is, the town staff that might help us with that aren't here, but my recollection is that there are 2 or 3 wells affected by saltwater intrusion in addition to one affected by PFAS. So yes. I think that the Allen's Lane well, I don't have the full agreement in front of me, but I think it is one of those wells affected by saltwater intrusion.
Our intention is to accept within our utility all of the wells,
right,
as is conditioned, and to utilize them as the town is utilizing them today, until we can build the infrastructure necessary to supplement the flow provided by wells with water from swimming. So that facility, those wells are going to be operating as they are today for a couple of years.
Isn't the Allen's Lane well the only one that's on the, I'll call it the mainland?
Yeah.
It is, okay. And so that will remain in production right now, and it is producing, even though it's producing less than good water?
How I would couch that is, however the system is operating today, we're going to operate it the same way it becomes CFPUA's responsibility. So if that well's operating today and operating in partial yield because of whatever is impacting it, it's going to have to stay in that mode until we can supplement the water for that well.
My concern, Ken, is maybe it's one of optics more than anything else, is once we take over and it becomes a CFPUA, I just want to make sure that the quality of water, which is a constant complaint in Wrightsville Beach by the citizens who live there, I don't want them to think, we went through all this and we got the same less than good water. I want to make sure that they go, wow, we've got, CFPUA water, it's clean, it's different, and it's wonderful. Are we in agreement on that?
Yes, and there will be one major difference that will occur at transfer time.
Yeah.
And that is currently the town is limited by contract to 150 million gallons a day and 1.125 million, I think.
1.152.
Thank you. See? Per day.
Yeah.
And that limitation goes away. So we will then operate the system at whatever capacity that it can take
Yeah.
for the purpose of maximizing water quality.
Okay. This is a small question. Why in the world would the town of Wrightsville Beach insist on keeping a 2011 pickup truck as part of the agreement?
Rod's good.
What-
Rod's good.
And maybe that's just it.
Our answer to that is
Yeah.
that community is resource restricted.
Yes.
And we negotiated as part of this agreement that we would completely replace the resources. We wanted to go into this activity with new vehicles, new generators, new SCADA. That was part of the negotiation. And one of the things that we've got to do in this transition period is we're going to name the Utility Advisory Committee. It will be led by Matt Trivett. Matt, stand up. So if the council chooses to exercise this agreement, I'm going to name Matt Trivett Utility Coordinator. And it will become Matt's job to take this document and turn it into reality. And part of that work will be, as soon as the local government commission gives its approval, to work on transferring funds so we can start the purchase of equipment. That's the critical time restriction, is getting all that equipment in place before the transition period, transition date.
Yeah, it doesn't really answer the question why they want to hang on to that, but
Who knows?
yeah, who knows?
It's part of the negotiation, and we respect their wishes on it.
Great. Last question is, do the members of the board of directors get a parking spot down at Wrightsville Beach?
I'm sorry we did not include
That
that.
is not in the negotiations.
Okay. Thank you, wonderful job, Deans, thanks.
Go ahead, Mr. President.
As part of Human Resources Committee, how many employees will you be shifting over to CFPUA from Wrightsville Beach? Number one. Number two, do you have any employees that plan to retire before the consolidation? So let's start with those two questions first. How many employees, and are there any retirements on the horizon from Wrightsville Beach to CFPUA?
There are 7 full-time staff positions in the utility operation. They are fully staffed at the moment. They have been informed about the utility consolidation, but haven't been approached for a commitment on whether they're intending to ask for the transfer to CFPUA. So at most, we'll be talking about 7. And I think we will learn in the coming few months the intention of that. Then there'll be the natural screening that would happen for new employees, and assuming that none of the employees are affected by that screening, final decisions to make. But I haven't heard anything about an employee that would be planning to retire. I don't believe any of the staff positions that are affected by this transfer have employees with long enough tenure to actually retire.
So if we use other consolidations in the state as a metric or measure of how we approach this, after the council at Wrightsville Beach approves the agreement, with Wrightsville Beach's permission, we meet with the staff. And we reassure the staff in those positions that they would be welcome after that screening process, as we do for all new employees, We're gonna find roles for them within our organization, and that we're gonna make this transition as smooth as possible. It's entirely possible that in this 15-month plus timeframe, somebody may leave the job and they may fill, Wrightsville Beach may fill the position with a new employee. And the transition period is there for a reason. It's for us to be able to work out some of these details and ensure that the employees that we get are comfortable and welcomed. I was an employee of a consolidation. I was with the town of Zebulon one day, and I was with the city of Raleigh the next. And we're going to use that same strategy of making them welcome here, and hopefully we can retain as many of those employees as possible with their institutional knowledge.
But no more than 7.
No more than that.
Correct.
Okay, so during the consolidation period, if Wrightsville Beach has to hire,
Transition period?
I'm sorry, transition period, I'm sorry. During the transition period, if Wrightsville Beach has to hire any new employees, will we be a part of the hiring process? Or will we be able to screen employees since the employees will become CFPUA employees at some point?
It's toward the end of the transition period is where we begin our screening. So if we're invited, it will be at the discretion of the town to be part of the hiring process. That did occur in some of the other consolidations in other states, but we haven't secured that right in this agreement. We simply have the right to screen whoever they hire at transition. And I think that will be fine. We've had a good working relationship. I believe if this agreement is approved, that our neighbors will ask us to come over and look at anybody that they have to hire within that time frame.
Okay.
Other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, so I support this consolidation, and I'm really grateful for all the hard work that has come into it. I think philosophically and from an accounting standpoint and from a ratepayer standpoint, it's obviously the right move. I think it's important to note that the kind citizens and taxpayers of North Carolina are making it possible by bringing $25 million to the table. Might not have made that decision just in light of the fact that Wrightsville Beach is probably one of the wealthiest parts of our state, but be that as it may. Could you take a moment, Ken, to, just for posterity and for any ratepayers that are watching or may watch in the future, I believe the accounting is set up such that our ratepayers are not directly subsidizing this with respect to the consolidation, and with the exception of the $25 million. Could you put it in layperson's terms how we are protecting our ratepayers financially in this deal?
I'll do my best. And that was one of the fundamentals from both sides of the negotiating table, is that the burden of a consolidation wouldn't fall on CFPUA ratepayers or town ratepayers. And the solution to that was the generous appropriation brought to the table by our General Assembly delegation of $25 million. And the prudent reserves that were accumulated by the town aldermen themselves that they brought to the table. And then finally, we've developed a strategy that will allow us to carve out a small percentage of every future town water bill to retire any debt that would not be retired by the first two sources. So those three things together will ensure that CFPUA customers will not fund consolidation costs.
All right, so we've had a lot of work on this over the past 18 months, and again, just to echo, we appreciate Dean Leary, all the work you put into it, as well as the staff. I know it's been a lot of work between both the town and CFPUA, so we appreciate all of that effort with our partners as well. So hearing no more comments, I will take a motion to approve the utility consolidation agreement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we will move on with the transition period. Thank you all. You can finish the rest of your executive report.
I apologize, but in sitting here,
Data center equipment.
I'd like to invite up Cord Ellison to speak to the next item.
Good morning. So this item generally would have come before Finance Committee, but with the cancellation of the July board meeting, I missed that window. We were still waiting on some numbers, so it has been added for review here at this meeting. And essentially what it is this is our server hardware that runs both data centers, and approximately 202 virtual servers and 241 virtual desktops used by CFPUA employees. This equipment was bought in different years, and when that hardware was purchased, we also purchased software that's required to maintain that system. Because they were bought in different years, in the 3-year term for the software, we have staggering schedules of when the software runs out. All of that, a good portion of it's going to end in 2024. So this purchase will basically align that software for a 2-year term to get us through 2026, which is when our next hardware refresh will come, and we'll have a new enterprise license agreement software renewal, and everything will be then aligned on the same schedule. That's just a part of growing. We started off with a few servers, a handful of servers, and now we're running very large data centers that are fully replicated, providing the majority of the resources for CFPUA. And you've heard me talk about cybersecurity. A lot of this hardware and software is also tied with our cybersecurity strategy. So in this proposal, this enterprise license agreement is with Choice Partner Cooperative Purchasing Agreement in the amount of $461,735. The IT Capital Project 198001 has sufficient funds to pay for this 2-year EPA, and we are asking for the board's approval to authorize the executive director to approve this purchase to NWN in the amount of $461,735. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Corey, I'm going to show my ignorance here, but 2 different data centers. Is there a physical data center?
Both are physical.
And where are they?
One is at 235 Government Center Drive. The other is at Sweeney Water Treatment Facility, which is also where we stand up our EOC in the event of hurricane or a major disruption. So kind of tied to that, part of our exercise is that at the beginning of hurricane season, we typically fail over all of our servers from 235 to DR, and we run the entire organization there. That also includes SCADA systems. So every facility has its own SCADA system, which runs the plant. And in real world, with this type of hardware and this software, we've done maintenance where we literally shut down the servers at the physical plant facility, and they run the entire facility from 235. And on a tertiary note, when we shut down 235's data center and we have failed over to DR at Sweeney, they operate the facility from DR. So we have a very complex, robust system, but it's all predicated on hardware and software.
You answered the question beautifully. Thought, of course, we had another situation like we had over 235. We're totally redundant.
100%. Everything is replicated in real time. It can withstand a full shutdown, destruction of that server, and we were fortunate that didn't happen in that case. But that's what insurance is for. The other part of that, and I mentioned this during the cyber presentation that was in closed session. This is not something that's sensitive, so I'll mention it now. But not only are we doing these full replicated environments with all the data, but we also back up a year's worth of data to tape stored off-site in a secure facility of both our industrial control system environments and our business environments. So should both of those data centers be destroyed, we can stand that up because we're hardware agnostic. We don't have to worry about a specific hardware brand. We can put anything in, put the virtualization software, restore from tape, and we're back up rocking and rolling.
Thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Briggs.
While I got you up there at the podium, while we have you at the podium, in the consolidation and the transfer of CFPUA to Rice Beach, are we working on a security program for Riceville Beach with the with things that's so volatile in the system?
Yes, sir.
System now?
For the consolidation, it's probably going to be centered around the SCADA system. I was part of the group that went over and we toured every single SCADA component that Wrightsville Beach has currently. And part of this is bringing that equipment up to our standard and tying it into our system, which is going to mean different hardware for SCADA. It's going to mean different communications mediums that align with our security posture. So every one of those things have been considered as part of this consolidation agreement.
Yeah, because when you came and told us about how you were working on the security system for CFPUA, right after that, I think I saw something on television about a security breach within a water system, and I was going like, that's what he was talking about.
It unfortunately happens every day, just about.
Yeah, so I was just, trying to stay ahead of the curve and see how we were working on Wrightsville Beach.
Yes, sir, we've
Security.
considered all this.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes.
Then our eighth item, I'll ask somebody from our finance group to come up, Juliet, our deputy CFO, to discuss an ordinance appropriating additional rent abatement proceeds.
Yes, I apologize. We got this right around the time of the Finance Committee. So with this, we're going to cancel the July board meeting. We thought we'd go ahead and bring this. We received notice from our landlord when they were closing out the claim with their insurance carrier that they realized we were not back in our building yet and offered to send an additional $47,383.24 in rent abatement proceeds. And so we're going to appropriate those to the renovation project.
Good deal.
Great. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Then the final thing on your agenda is a recommendation to cancel the July board meeting.
So moved.
Second all around.
It would be the finance executive and the board meeting. We can decide about sustainability and the LRP later in the month.
All
Motion.
right, we have a motion and a
Second.
second.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, I'm just kidding.
And we should have some new agenda software rolling out before the August meeting, so. We're coordinating with the company that does our website and does Municode. They also have agenda software, so Cord and Judy and Kiva and Sarah and Jude and I have been working on that.
All right, thank you, Ken. That's a substantive report. Moving on to committee reports. So the executive committee met on June 5th. Those minutes are in your packet for review. Any comments, questions? All right. Two other items for the executive committee. Between now and the August board meeting, we'll be convening a nominating committee to appoint next year's officers. And so Councilman Waddell has volunteered for the city. I need a county representative. Is that going to be you, Commissioner Zappel? Okay, so between now and August, we will meet to decide next year's officers. If you have an interest in serving as an officer, please let myself or one of these two gentlemen know so we can have that discussion ahead of the August board meeting, and the plan is we would bring forth the nominating committee report in August. Additionally, we'll do the same thing with committees. So if you want to change committees, hopefully between now and August, we'll get all the committee assignments official as well. So that's it for exec. And, one last thing. And I sent out forms for executive director feedback, so I would appreciate those by August as well, so we can take action at the August board meeting based on, Ken can get his timely feedback for the prior year's actions. So. All right, long-range planning committee?
Long-range planning did not meet. I have no report.
Finance committee?
Finance committee met on June 5th. Minutes are in the packet. And monthly financial report.
Okay. So this first slide is our fund balance by category as of April 30th, 2024. Just as a refresher, the restricted, those are constraints placed by external parties, like unspent bond proceeds and debt service reserve. Then there's the committed category, which is done by board resolution, which is typically your capital reserve. Your assigned, which is more of a board management decision, has a little bit more flexibility. And there's the unassigned, which, as you know, we have the goal of 50 million, and this is to manage risk, and any surpluses, equate to customer savings. So we are in the unassigned at 43.1 million. As compared to last year, you can see that the accumulated surplus last year, we were running a surplus. This year, we're at a deficit. Okay, thanks. At the end of March, we were around 41.9, so we made up a little bit in April, not a significant amount. We do hope to close that deficit a little bit more before the end of the year, but we could run a deficit at the end of the year. Hopefully, we would make that up in FY25. If we don't, we could bring something as part of the FY26 budget to address that issue. These are your revenues through the end of May. As you can see, we're still in the unfavorable. We did see some gain. At the end of April, we were unfavorable at 1.86 million compared to the budget. Now we're at 1.2. Our consumption was up some in May. Our ERUs were slightly down, but our consumption did go up. So I think that's a good trend. We have one more month. We're hoping that June will also show a positive trend. Unfortunately, the SDCs are still lagging. I think that goes along with what we were discussing earlier as part of the key indicators report, just the slowing of those fees. If there are any other questions, any other slides you want to discuss?
Yeah, Julia, and then John, Julia, Ken, the SDC situation, I know you're monitoring it. Are we at a point where we need to make a budget adjustment? That's one of the main drivers of our overall budget. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of too late in the year to actually adjust the budget down. That would be one way of closing that gap. It's a little too late in the game. So, how it's going to shake out is keeping the budget the same. We're going to have that underperformance in the SDCs, which is going to translate into a deficit. Hopefully that gap closes a little bit. It's been last couple of months been hot and dry, so hopefully we can see some of that gap close in terms of water sales. But then next year's a new year. We don't have anything in the FY25 budget that's baked into rates to bring that 50 million back up. But we could have, and this is the first year that I've been here where we've been in this posture, we normally have a sizable or slight surplus. So if you kind of roll that surplus, let's just say that we have a surplus next year, it could go to close that gap. If it does not, when we start planning the FY26 budget, we can have discussions with the board on how we're going to close that gap to bring that unassigned fund balance back up to the 50 million.
We're seeing a small increase with Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer and their prices. That's baked in already to our budget going forward?
Correct.
It is.
We'll keep a very close eye on this. It's always possible, although I would categorize it as highly unlikely, that we bring you something mid-year to discuss. But I want to kind of lay that card on the table. And as John noted, our plan is to address any continued decline, if it happens, or continued gap in next year's budget.
All right, thank you, Julie. All right, anything else for finance? Mr. Moore?
That's it. Thank you.
Sustainability Committee, Dr. Dan? No. Okay. Any old business come for the board? Any last Q&A, closing comments? All right, I'll take a motion to go into closed session to discuss 2 items.
So we need a motion to go into closed session to discuss contract negotiations and/or a potential claim and Chemours, or CFPUA versus Chemours.
Motion for that? Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll take 10 minutes and pick up closed session at 10:10.
Just